Hey Kipsters, this is Mr. Herrera. Today we're going to be learning a little bit about the scholar official class in medieval China. And so what I'd like you to do is to track the presentation and follow along as I discuss the different concepts. So we're focusing today mainly on the Tang Dynasty and also the Song Dynasty. Let's jump in here. So, how would you describe the government of the Tang Dynasty? Well, the Tang Dynasty was an aristocracy. That meant that the rich and wealthy people were the ones that were in power. Okay? Now, Tang rulers required people to pass the civil service exam, okay, to work in government because they wanted to avoid all the power being given to the rich families. So the Tang Dynasty thought, we don't want all the rich families to be the only people ruling. We actually want other people to rule. So we're going to make people pass this really difficult civil service exam so that we get other kinds of people ruling, not just rich people. Now, were they successful in doing this? Well, obviously not, because they didn't know at the time that the rich people were the only ones that were prepared to really pass this test. They were the ones that had the free time. They were the ones that could hire tutors. They were the ones that could really get prepared for this exam and pass it. And so they were the only ones that ended up being in power at the time. Okay? So during the Tang Dynasty, I want you to remember that they had an aristocracy, the rich people ruled. And they tried to require people to pass the civil service exam, but it didn't work in their favor because only the rich people were the ones prepared to pass this test. Moving along here. So now, what was it like to be a peasant during the Tang Dynasty? Well, if you were a peasant during the Tang Dynasty, you were treated really poorly. And so basically, they were really upset and they decided to eventually rebel against the government. Okay. So that begs the question then, why did the Tang Dynasty fall? Well, it's simple. Peasants were tired of their bad government and they rebelled against them. Okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about the Song Dynasty. What type of government was the Song Dynasty? Well, they were basically a meritocracy. Remember we talked about how the meritocracy is when you hire people that have skills. Okay, so they're people that are knowledgeable and they have skills. Now, people in the Song Dynasty also had to pass the civil service exam. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the civil service exam. Civil service exam, again, was a really difficult test, and if you passed it, you became known as a scholar official, okay? And you were able to then work in government. Now, during the Song Dynasty, people from lower classes were allowed to finally take this test. So unlike the Tang Dynasty, in the Song Dynasty, now you get people, regular people, being able to take the civil service exam test and being able to pass it and actually work in government. So that's why we have more of a meritocracy during the Song Dynasty at this time. Okay? So again, Kipsters, really important concepts. Tang Dynasty equals aristocracy. Song Dynasty equals meritocracy. One thing I do want you to remember is that the scholar official class not only ruled during the Tang Dynasty and the Song Dynasty, but they were in government for over 1,000 years in China. Okay, and another thing that I should say is also that the scholar official class represented a way for people, especially during the Song Dynasty, it represented a way for people, regular people, to become government officials. So it was a connection between regular people and government. Okay? And that's that. Now, after seeing this movie, I want you to go ahead and go back to the class blog and move on to the next task.